You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
What's going on, U.S. Cellular customers? I've got good news, so don't hit skip, at least not yet. I'm talking about their special customer event, Us Days. What is Us Days? It means exclusive offers just for their customers, just to say thanks, like $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. No, I didn't just misread that. They must really like you. Us Days at U.S. Cellular, exclusive offers just for you, just to say thank you. Right now, U.S. Cellular customers get $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. Terms apply.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, we do have some news, actually, today, which is fantastic. There's two things to report. We'll start with the bigger thing last. Tricked you. Jordan Love officially got engaged to his, I'll say longtime girlfriend. I don't really know how long it's been. I thought I was being slick and could find the location by myself, which I actually did, but it turns out it's not super unique news. Somebody else already figured it out, and it's all over the news and whatever. But he got engaged to his girlfriend, Veronica Stone, who is a professional volleyball player, I believe. But they got engaged at Castello di Celsa, which is a castle in Italy. Looks pretty remarkable out there, so happy for him and for his now fiance. Everything's kind of fallen into place, you know what I mean? Could possibly read even more into this, that this is somewhat of a, he wanted to make sure that everything was settled, so, this must mean there's a contract, but I don't think so. I think, not to say that there isn't a correlation between being engaged and actually getting the big boy contract, but I mean, it's just a matter of like, you talk to the agent, it's like, it's going to get done. You know what I mean? We got some work to do. We'll see how it goes. I can't give you exact specifics, but if you're waiting on the contract to go ahead and get engaged, just go ahead and get engaged because it's going to happen. But he posted some photos on the Instagrams, and hopefully this is a net positive. I know there's been some rumors circulating that I, of course, had no participation in. I did not.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Freaking love that. If you know, you know. All right. In other news, Mr. Ed Policy has officially been named as the new president. He will be taking over next year, I think next summer. Sad to see Mark Murphy go. I believe I'm in the minority. I don't know, but I think he's done a really good job. And I'm excited to see what Ed Policy can do for us. Obviously, this has been an expected thing. I remember probably over a year ago, I remember seeing an article about Ed. It was the first time I saw an article about Ed Policy, and I saw all the stuff that he had been doing. Chairman of this and that. And I looked at it and I thought, this guy's going to be the next president. Like it just hit me in that moment, and here we are. But I want to dig into Ed Policy a little bit because, I mean, this is honestly a pretty unknown aspect of this team. We spend just an ungodly amount of time talking about statistics and, talking about players and having optimism and talking about rivals and other teams and just over and over and over again. Very rarely do we ever dig into what the heck, who is this person and what is he going to be doing? So first of all, let's go all the way back. He actually has parents by the name of Carmen and Gail Policy. Carmen Policy, interestingly enough, was very similar to his son, or I guess his son is similar to his dad, was the president of both the 49ers and the Cleveland Browns. Before that, though, with the 49ers, he was vice president and counsel to the owner. right now, Ed Policy is COO and general counsel. So his dad was a president of 2 different football teams. He grew up in Ohio, played a little football, won a high school state championship, got a bachelor's degree in business from Notre Dame, and then went to grad school at Stanford Law School. Went to work for a law firm in San Francisco and then Cleveland, interestingly enough, the 2 places that his dad was. He started working for the Arena Football League in 2001, briefly became the commissioner of the league when he took over on an interim basis for Commissioner C. David Baker, who stepped down 2 days before the 2008 Arena Bowl. Because the league subsequently shut down for the 2009 season, the initial corporate organization filing for bankruptcy, the only actual AFL game contested during Policy's tenure as commissioner, and was the 2008 Arena Bowl. So right before the thing shut down, he slipped in there as the commissioner. Then in 2009, he jumped ship. He ends up going over to the National Football League. Probably fantastic that the guy stepped down, which is funny because the guy probably stepped down because he realized this thing was going in the tank and didn't want to be at the head of the thing when it went under. But in so doing, Policy got to put commissioner of the Arena Football League on his resume. He gets a job as a consultant for the National Football League, but he left prior to the 2011 lockout. In 2012, Green Bay Packers hired Policy to serve as vice president and general counsel. Now, it's funny. I had somebody ask me on social media, do you think they ever looked at anybody outside of the organization? Now, obviously, what he means by that is, do you think it was always set up to be Policy or somebody on the interior, or did they even try to look for somebody else? The answer to the question is yes, they did look outside of Green Bay, and they did it when they hired Ed Policy back in 2012. At that point, they began grooming the guy. I mean, straight up. I mean, they hired him to be vice president and general counsel day one. So they saw him as a future possible president back in 2012. Imagine that, a 13-year project. Doesn't mean it has to be the guy, but I mean, there's no doubt that they're looking at this guy to be the guy. After 6 years, he gets promoted to COO. The Packers said in a statement that Policy would take on a greater role in overseeing the business operations of the organization, which again is one of those things you look at and go, okay, now they're opening it up, the books. I mean, they're showing him how to do the job, right? I want you to work on this stuff. Now I want you to look at the business stuff. Since being named COO, Policy has overseen the development of the Packers Titletown district. Obviously, that's a big one. It's one of the biggest things that's being done from a administrative standpoint, so they put it in his lap. I think he knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's all pointing in one direction. In February 2020, amid rumors that Green Bay was successful in their bid to host the 2022 NFL Draft, Policy said that the NFL had not awarded the rights to host the draft to Green Bay or any other city, but that the Packers would aggressively pursue the opportunity. Green Bay was eventually awarded the right to host the 2025 NFL Draft, which Policy stated would be the largest event Green Bay ever hosted. When Green Bay confirmed that he signed his contract extension with the club, he expressed gratitude to Policy and other key executives in the organization for the opportunity. Again, just kind of pointing him being sort of in the inner circle. His father-in-law, by the way, interestingly enough, it's just one of those things where you're part of like a royal family, you know? You got parents that were high up. You married people who had parents that were high up. You both have all these... His father-in-law is an admiral in the United States Navy. He was Commander, Naval Air Force, U.S. Atlantic Fleet from 1991 to 1994. His awards include Defense Distinguished Service Medal, Navy Distinguished Service Medal, with a gold star in lieu of a second award, Defense Superior Service Medal with oak clusters in lieu of second award, Legion of Merit, Air Medal with 10 Strike Flight Awards, Navy Commendation Medal with Combat V, Joint Meritus Unit Award, Navy Unit Commandery, and Navy E Ribbon. In retirement, he served a stint as president of the Association of Naval Aviation. So that's his wife's dad. So I dug into what a COO and general counsel would do, because I'm not entirely sure. I've never been that. I never will be that. I mean, I guess I could say I am CEO, COO, whatever it is of this podcast, but that doesn't help me understand what the heck a COO does. Pretty sure a COO, I don't know, makes himself coffee and talks about the Packers. That's what they do. Nothing necessarily earth-shattering, but essentially you've got the board of directors and you've got the CEO or president. The COO's primary job is to sort of oversee and make sure that the directives that are given from the top are executed. So Mark Murphy and the board of directors say, we want to go in this direction. You know, we want to start Titletown. We want to do this. He's the guy that makes sure that it gets done. Oversees day-to-day operations, managing various departments such as finance, HR, marketing, and facilities, ensure operational efficiency and effectiveness, collaborate with other executives to achieve organizational goals, oversee business operations related to Lambeau Field and other Packers facilities. So that's sort of the general overview. Whatever needs to get done, he's the doer. Maybe not the doer, but he's sort of the top doer. There's the teller, then there's the doer that tells all the little doers to do the doing. But there's also general counsel. So in this case, presumably, general counsel is not necessarily like, he's not like sitting Mark Murphy down on his couch and counseling him. And it's not like a consigliere or whatever in the mob. It's legal counsel. So if there are legal issues, they go to Ed Policy and he helps them work through that. Provide legal advice to the organization on various matters, oversee all legal affairs of the Packers, manage legal risk and ensure compliance with NFL rules and regulations, reviewing and negotiating contracts. So he's a big part of that as well. Obviously, having a good lawyer is important when you got your number guy, but you also need a legal guy. Handling any litigation that involves. So if something legal does come to the Green Bay Packers doorstep, he's the guy in charge of that primarily. Obviously, there's a staff there, but he is top legal guy. Advising on intellectual property matters and ensuring compliance with labor laws and other relevant regulations. So it's also the guy who, presumably, if you had an Aaron Rodgers situation where a guy didn't show up and it's like, what do? It's going to work its way up to the top to Ed Policy. And he's going to work through all that stuff with the union and the NFL and how that all gets worked out. And then it says, in combining both roles, Policy likely plays a key role in major business decisions, acts as a liaison between the team and the NFL on legal and operational matters, helps navigate the unique challenges of the Packers community ownership structure, and balances business operations with legal considerations in all aspects of the organization. So that's what he's been doing since, 2018 or 2020 he got that job? And that's more or less what he's been doing, or, maybe on a lesser scale since 2012. So, again, did they look to the outside? Yes, when they found Policy. And then they've been building him up for 12 years to be the guy that he needs to be to run the Green Bay Packers. But 53 years old, so he can be doing it for quite a while. By the way, his dad, 5 Super Bowls with 2 different teams. And apparently when it came down to it, so there was obviously I'm kind of kidding with the whole, like, did they look outside? Yes, when they got Ed Policy. There was actually a 90-candidate search to try to find this person. I don't know how serious they were about finding somebody other than Ed Policy, but they did it anyways. They did their due diligence, 90 candidates, and at the end of that, there was a unanimous vote by the Packers board of directors, which includes Mark Murphy, I believe. Maybe he's not a part of this vote in particular, but anyways, unanimous vote for Ed Policy. Some of the reasons he was hired, search committee highly highlighted Policy's leadership qualities, innovative vision, and the seamless transition he offers for the organization. Policy also considers the position of Packers president and CEO as the best job in sports and has expressed dedication to building a winning culture and community impact. He's going to retain his current role until July of 2025. During this time, he'll work closely with Murphy to ensure a smooth transition for employees, players, and fans. So this is probably not going to be just business as usual, because he's going to be kind of working as an understudy, working on CEO type stuff. They're probably going to have to look to promote somebody into his role, et cetera, et cetera. So look, I think it was Andy Herman or something on social media said something to the effect of, it's really difficult to answer the question, is this the right decision? There's no metrics that I can look at. PFF doesn't have anything. SIS has nothing. Pro Football Reference doesn't have anything. There's no stats to look at. But I can't really think of a box that didn't get checked here when it comes to Ed Policy. I think You need to have somebody that is experienced and qualified to be able to do the job, which I think there's probably several people, maybe not quite as good as policy, but you could probably extend that out quite far to be a CEO of a business. But I think it's also very, very important to find somebody that wants to continue the Green Bay Packers tradition. There is a way of doing business here. And I know some people worry about stagnation and about, not growing, and I'm sure that's built into the system. You look at Brian Gutekunst, he came in doing things sort of the Ted Thompson way. He had his own little spin on it. We were much more active in free agency, for example. But it's sort of an element of taking the Packers and what they are and evolving it. But you don't start with evolution. You don't start with, what are other teams doing? Let's do that. You start with, no, this is how we do things. And if we can identify an area where we can possibly improve, whether that's just building and improving on what Ron Wolf gave us, because obviously, as great as he was, everything he said wasn't perfect. There's other considerations, but also the NFL continues to evolve, and you want to make sure as it does that you try to find the best path. So I'm not really worried about being too rigid. I think that that's built into things. I'm sure over his 12 years in Green Bay, he's seen Mark Murphy kind of turn on some things, change his mind, change some directions and whatnot, and understand that, Green Bay is a unique place, and this is kind of how we do things in Green Bay, and he's going to continue doing that. But I think from our standpoint, the only thing that really matters is when the time comes to hire somebody else, like a GM, that he's going to find the right guy. Other than that, I don't think fans really give too much of a crap how good he is at filing paperwork. It doesn't super matter. But there you go. News of the day. Our boy Jordan is engaged. I don't know, but I would assume that the date of the wedding is sometime in late February, with plans of it being, hold on, where's the Super Bowl hosted? New Orleans. Oh, man, time is a flat circle, isn't it? Green Bay Packers are going to win the Super Bowl February 9th, 2025. Jordan Love is planning to be married February 10th in New Orleans. The venue's already set, probably at the Superdome. They already worked it out. Just do it on the 9th. Just clear everybody out. Keep the confetti on the field. Let's do this. That part was made up, by the way. Please don't go running around. Oh, did you hear? Getting married on the 9th in the Superdome. It's crazy. Sometimes I say things that are lies, okay? You're just going to have to deal with that. All right, why don't we go ahead and take a break, and then we'll be back and talk about some stuff. All right, I don't have to tell you what the stuff is. Maybe if I knew, I would tell you, but I don't know, all right? So let's just take a break. Let's just everybody take a break, all right? Just calm down. We'll be right back. What's going on, U.S. Cellular customers? I've got good news, so don't hit skip, at least not yet. I'm talking about their special customer event. Us Days. What is Us Days? It means exclusive offers just for their customers, just to say thanks. Like $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. No, I didn't just misread that. They must really like you. Us Days at U.S. Cellular, exclusive offers just for you, just to say thank you. Right now, U.S. Cellular customers get $1,200 off any phone, plus $300 off any tablet. Terms apply.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
America's favorite place to watch football is Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. Catch all the biggest games at a viewing experience built for sports fans. Chill in one of their 6 pools on 3 different levels for a perfect view of their massive screen. Plenty of seating options, from cozy daybeds to private, temperature-controlled cabanas. Stadium Swim. Book your spot today at circalasvegas.com.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
By the way, I have 2 things that I wanted to mention. Number one, I wanted to apologize for forgetting to attach the song that I said I was going to do yesterday. I will try to remember to do that today. Also, yesterday's podcast, I did the whole thing on the Bears and all the hypocrisy and the nonsense and the gaslighting and all that bull crap. Zach Pearson, who is the guy that I made sort of the central figure in that little tirade and tantrum of mine, he reached out and he was like, yo, the heck? So, look, I tried to lay out as many caveats as I could that, I think Zach and I are kind of in a good way, and it kind of sucks to be like, hey, I like this guy, watch me punch him in the neck real quick. But just so we're clear, I didn't mean to say Zach is the biggest D-bag of Chicago sports media. He just happened to be the central figure of a pattern that I was noticing. And since I saw that video and it triggered it, and then the clip that I found bragging about Fields was him, I couldn't not do it. I couldn't not. I knew it was going to make it back to him, but I couldn't just leave it. But all that to say, and he did not ask me to do this, by the way. He very cool about everything. He was just kind of like clarifying or whatever. But I figured I should because I do like Zach. To be clear, he does a good job writing for the Bears. And as he pointed out, like, he's been pretty critical of Justin Fields. He hasn't just been a homer this whole time. He said, you should have reached out to me, man. I could have told you some guys that have been homers the whole time. So maybe I'll do that next time. I'll just reach out to Bears people and be like, give me a punching bag, will you? Because I'm just feeling a little crazy. But Zach's a good dude, and we had a good chat for a while. Anyways, we haven't really talked about the kicker situation. I've more or less ignored it because, like I've said, I genuinely believe that Anders Carlson is the guy. Every time we listen to, the GM or the head coach or whatever, they constantly talk about patience. Brian Gutekunst just recently, I think it was on the Cheesehead TV one, he talked about how, a lot of kickers, their first stop, they didn't really do very well, and then they go on to have successful careers. And I think that's the way the Packers kind of view the situation, where they don't want to be the team that has a guy for 2 years and then they drop him, and then he goes on and in year 3 or 4 ends up being a really good kicker. Now, that might mean that they hang on to a bad kicker for a long time, but I just think that they're willing to be patient. Not that they're completely disregarding the other guys, but anyways, that's why I've more or less been kind of like, whatever, people are coming and going. So there have been numerous kickers. Number one is Greg Joseph. They picked him up in March. James Turner, they picked up in April, and then also in April, they picked up Jack Podlesny. Podlesny is a rookie kicker. Turner was picked up as an undrafted free agent. Greg Joseph, you probably know, is a veteran kicker. He's been around for kind of a long time. Jack Podlesny did get let go. This was probably, I think it was around the 19th or so. I believe it was actually a day before they picked up Jack What's-His-Face. So they brought in Jack Podlesny. They tried him out. They let him go. So I believe, even though I saw some reports that Greg Joseph was let go, I'm not seeing any confirmation of that. And on the Packers website, we have Anders Carlson, Greg Joseph, and James Turner. So I believe those are the 3 kickers we currently have. So those are the 3 that we'll see most likely. I mean, it's possible somebody gets let go or whatever. Gutekunst is still over there doing some work, but there's likely going to be those 3 coming back when training camp kicks off, no pun intended. But just a quick run through of these guys. Greg Joseph, he is just a shade under 30 years old. He undrafted, but his draft year was 2018 out of Florida Atlantic. He started off in Cleveland, had a really rough year. He was 25 of 29, so 86% on his extra points, 17 of 20 for his field goals. He ended up with a 42 PFF grade. He gets cut after 1 year, goes to Tennessee, has a really good year, 100% on his extra points, 100% on his field goals, but he really wasn't used very much. It was just 18 extra points and 1 field goal. So Tennessee lets him go. That's when Minnesota picks him up. He spends 3 years in Minnesota, grades out as average pretty much every year, which really is fine for kickers. A lot of our kickers, the ones that we don't hate, end up sort of average. Mason a lot of times was kind of low 70s, but still, whatever. He was 90% in his first year with Minnesota on his extra points. He was 33 of 38 on field goals. The next year, he was 43 of 49 extra points, 27 of 34 for field goals. And then his final year, which was 2023 in Minnesota, 36 of 38 for his extra points. He was 24 of 30 on his field goals, 100% from inside of 20 yards, 100% in the 20-yard range. He was 100% from the 30-yard range, but then 3 of 6 in the 40-yard range and 4 of 7 on the 50-yard range. So he's kind of like the exact opposite of Anders Carlson. He's pretty clutch in the easy situations. He struggles with the hard ones. Anders Carlson, for whatever reason, is actually a really clutch kicker, but man, maybe we should just carry 2 kickers. Anders will kick anything 40 and above, and then we'll have Greg Joseph kick the extra points and anything under 40 yards. I feel like that's the way to go. James Turner is a rookie. He comes out of Michigan, so pretty big program kind of a guy, you know. He actually was a pretty phenomenal kicker. I mean, if you're looking for, like, Anders Carlson graded out terribly, this guy was pretty clutch. So he has 4 years, 3 of which were actually in Louisville. His last year was in Michigan. His grades, he had one bad year-ish, but his grades were 83, 68, 86, and 84. And the funny thing about it, I think this before, is that, you know, if I look at a pass rusher and he has these kinds of grades, it's like, okay, we'll see what happens when you get to the pros. Bro, it's not that different when you... I can't imagine it's that different. What's different? You're kicking outside. 50 yards is 50 yards. Was there more pressure in the pros? There shouldn't be. You got better blockers too. So, I mean, if you're a good kicker, you're just a good kicker. But let's go through his stats. So Louisville, 3 years. In 2020, he was 100% for his extra point. Again, an extra point's an extra point. 40 of 40. That's a lot. He was 13 of 15 on his field goals. He hit everything under 50 yards. He was 1 of 3 in the 50-yard range, though. 2021 was kind of his one down year, 68 PFF grade. He had a 96%, so 46 of 48 on his extra points. He was 14 of 22 on his field goals, though. He was 4 of 5 in the 20-yard range, 100% in the 30-yard range, 6 of 10 in the 40-yard range, and 0 for 3 on his 50-yarders. His final year, 2022, he was 38 of 39 on his extra points, 20 of 22 on field goals. He was 100% in the 20-yard range, 100% in the 30s, 3 of 5 in the 40s. He didn't try any in the 50s, so he just missed 2 in the 40-yard range. His final year in Michigan, 84 PFF grade. He was 65 of 66 on his extra points. That's a lot of extra point kicks. 18 of 21 on field goals. 100% in the 20s, 10 of 10 in the 30s, 3 of 5 in the 40s, 3 of 4 in the 50s. So, we'll see, man. I mean, the Packers might have some serious interest in this guy. Again, clutch kicker, pretty big program. You know, you kick for Michigan, you know, you're talking similar weather conditions. You're kicking in pretty much, I'm assuming there's a lot of snow, a lot of wind. But over his entire college career, including that one sort of down year, he is 97.9% on his extra points, 189 of 193. And he is 81% on his field goals, 65 of 80. But in the 20-yard range, he's 20 of 21. In the 30-yard range, he's never missed. He's 24 of 24. 40-yard range, it starts to dip. We're talking 68%, 17 of 25. And then 50-yard range, 4 of 10. But he's technically 3 of 4 in his last 2 years because he didn't try any in 2022, and he was 3 of 4 in 2023. It was just that one bad year that kind of killed him where he was 0 for 3. In his rookie year, he was 1 for 3. So his first 2 years, he's 1 for 6. But since then, you know, he goes 3 of 4. He's absolutely worth looking at. I mean, it's one of those things, too, where it's like you got the special teams guys watching tape, and they like what they like. And again, I still think Anders Carlson wins it. But, I mean, if you're just asking me, I'm grabbing this guy instantly. I might have drafted this guy. I don't know what else you want, you know? I take a 7th-round flyer on a guy like this. So, I don't know, man. Again, I'm pretty sure Anders is going to win it, but I'm not positive that I won't be kind of... No offense to Anders Carlson. I'm rooting for everybody, but I'm just saying I kind of got my fingers crossed that this guy's really good. That's all I'm going to say. A couple extra little details about the boy. In 2020, he was a semifinalist for the Lou Groza Award, which is given to the nation's top kickers. He handled kickoffs for part of the 2019 season and was known for his strong leg, making several long-distance field goals. He played a crucial role in Michigan's national title run, making key field goals in important games, including a 50-yard field goal and a clinching 37-yarder against Ohio State and all 4 attempts in the Big Ten championship game against Iowa. That's another thing. I mean, that's another one of those big things where it's like you can look at the data in the macro, but there's also a question of what is he doing in the snow? What is he doing in the cold? What is he doing in big games? You play for a team like Michigan. You've been in big games, the biggest games. How did you perform? And if you were at your best in those games, that says something. In fact, we can actually look at it. Championship game against Washington, he was 4 for 4 on extra points. He was 2 for 2 for field goals. So he hit every single kick. Both of those kicks were in the 30-yard range, and the dude does not miss from inside of 30. Inside of 30 technically, but in the 30-yard range specifically. Through the playoffs, he was 100% on his extra points, and he was, 4, 5, 6, 7? He was 6 of 7 on field goals. 9 of 9 on extra points, 6 of 7 on field goals. That includes the 50-yarder or outside of 50 for the game against Iowa. But he was initially signed by the Detroit Lions, where he impressed during practices by making long distance field goals, including 56 and 55 yards. Despite his strong performance, he was released by the Lions following their acquisition of Jake Bates, a standout from the UFL. Turner's track record of accuracy and ability to handle pressure situations makes him a strong contender in the Packers' kicking competition. His performance in both college and professional settings has shown that he can be a reliable asset for any team. So, yeah, I'm a fan. And listen, I've kind of said from the start when we drafted Anders Carlson, and I understand that PFF is not everything, and stats are not everything, and whatever, but to some degree, especially when you're talking kickers, man, it's like, at the end of the day, it comes down to did you make it? You know what I mean? I understand, like, there's going to be more to it, and you think you can fix him and all that kind of stuff, and he's got this and he's got that, but, man, you just find me a guy that played outside in the cold, in tough games against tough competition, and can hit all the kicks with a strong leg. I don't know that there's a better kicker. I'm not even talking about accuracy. I'm just talking about checking all the boxes. You're talking about a guy that can kick game-winning 50-yard field goals in championship situations, in adverse weather conditions. If you were to build a Packers kicker in a lab coming out of college, this would have been his resume. And again, I look at Anders Carlson, and we drafted him, and it's like, I mean, his PFF kind of sucks. I mean, his grades are bad, his accuracy is bad, he doesn't make field goals, he's terrible with extra points. Like, I don't understand. And it's like, well, he's got a lot of good qualities, we got to fix him and tweak him, and it's like, yeah, or you could just get a guy like James Turner that's kind of already good and not draft him. Apparently, I don't know, man. It would be interesting to sit down with special teams coordinator and just be like, explain this to me like I'm freaking 5, because I don't know what the heck we're doing here. But, we'll see how it goes. We got some qualified guys. I feel like Greg Joseph kind of sets a floor, but I also feel like the Packers are not going to give up on Anders Carlson just for Greg Joseph's floor. So I think Greg Joseph kind of has the lowest possibility, unless, these two guys just completely suck and they're like, we can't do this. We're trying to win actual championships here with Jordan Love. We're going to pay the man Jordan Love, and we expect results. But that just doesn't seem to be the Packers' way, man. They're going to be patient with one of these guys, and we're going to move forward. It's just going to be interesting to see which one. And again, I don't think it's Greg Joseph. But for all I know, we're going to do all this, and by tomorrow, James Turner is going to be gone. All right, let's take a break. We'll take some calls. We'll get out of here. We'll be right back.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's peachy.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, Ryan, Daniel from California. I was just looking back at Justin Fields and looking back at Caleb Williams, and I had searched up college stats, college PFF for Justin Fields, and just to baseline, right? He had a very good college career. He had 90s across the board for 3 years. His last year was injury riddled, but man, he was a good college quarterback. He was the most accurate college quarterback I didn't see a lot of recent names, but of the last maybe 5 draft cycles, 10 draft cycles, he was the most accurate quarterback, more accurate in college than Baker Mayfield. And you look at his PFF grades, and I know a lot of Packer fans, they're not worried about Caleb Williams. They're just worried about what the Packers do. And everybody's in your face about getting, like, oh, Caleb Williams is going to be the next best thing. But, Justin Fields, man, he's a good quarterback, and the Bears, they ruined him. They, switched up coordinators too much, and I don't see Shane Waldron as this amazing coordinator.
No.
A lot of these guys don't like him, like Jackson Smith and Jigba. They're like, oh, yeah, he's good, right? But he's, saying it just to be nice. You look at Caleb Williams' PFF grades, and they're very similar to Justin Fields, and if the Bears can ruin Justin Fields, I think the Bears can ruin Caleb Williams. Even with the, massive amount of talent they put at the receiver position around him, they didn't prioritize offensive line. They didn't trade down to try to get more picks. They don't have depth like they think they have. The last few draft classes, they don't have 3 draft classes in a row with 10 picks each time. Like, they just have they have like 5 guys that are all free agents that have bad contracts, and then they have 3 draft classes of people and then a bunch of undrafted guys. They're not they're not
I'm just
set
going
up.
through the
like,
podcast.
yes, they have a decent offensive line and they got receivers, but I'm not afraid.
Like 8 o'clock.
I'm not afraid.
All right.
Caleb Williams, you don't know. You keep walking around with your claw out, but that's not for the Packers. That's the Bears are going to scratch you, man. They're going to get you. So I like the mentality. He wants to be the best, so let's see. But Trubisky, Fields, Caleb Williams, the next one to fail. Go Pack, go.
So the mute button on my thing isn't working right now. I hit mute and talked to my kid, and then I looked and I'm like, it's not muted, but I guess it's just not working. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I officially ascribe to the Bears ruin Justin Fields thing. I think if Justin Fields actually had the talent, he could do it somewhere else. I'm not saying the Bears necessarily did a good job, but I think a good quarterback could have, done things right. I mean, the fact that he can't read a defense, I mean, that's on him, man. And as far as like him being like elite, and he was really elite. You know who else was? Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, massively elite in college. Spencer Rattler, Kyle Trask. Those guys were actually ahead of Justin Fields as far as PFF passing grade in 2020. Trask, Rattler, Grayson McCall, Mac Jones, and then Zach Wilson was number 1. You got 2017 Baker was in that same range. Really, really good. Not saying Baker's a terrible quarterback, but, certainly didn't live up to that standard like he was in college. Who else? Mason Rudolph, really, really highly ranked. He had a 92 PFF grade back in 2016. So, he's actually the number 1 quarterback in college football in 2015. Mason Rudolph was ahead of Baker and Jared Goff. I just think I think he had some issues in college, and they were exasperated in the pros. And, the issue with Caleb Williams is that he has similar issues. I think he's a better thrower of the football. Everybody talked about Justin having a big arm, and he did. He had a big arm. He had a good arm. He had some deep passes that were beautiful down the sideline, but the release was slow. The timing and anticipation was slow. I think Caleb's better at that stuff, but he still struggles. Like when the play breaks down, as far as his timing, as far as all that stuff, it doesn't seem quite there. So I don't know. It's really not worth super fighting about. I hope I'm wrong about it, because obviously if the Bears are the problem, then they'll never have a good quarterback. I just don't necessarily think that that's the case. I think they picked a bad player. I think he would have probably been bad for anybody. I think he's going to continue to be bad because he's just a bad quarterback.
What's up, Ryan?
Hey.
Kyle from Madison. How are you?
Good.
I'm just about to dive into your Netflix streaming podcast. I don't know, a couple of months ago I called in, and I don't know, I had some audio issue. It was just blank for you, but the comment I made them was actually about, it was right before the schedule release, and Netflix was negotiating, get some games. And it just made me think, you know, when most of us, I would think most of us listening right now are old enough where when we were growing up, probably still maybe had CDs or some physical media, things like that. And especially youth culture. You know, there were cultural touchstones for me in the 80s when I was a kid. You know, you could have grabbed, 100 kids in my class and probably over 50, maybe 85 of them or more knew the plot to Back to the Future. You know, it was a cultural event. Same thing in high school when albums would drop, you know. And they were real, I remember when Nevermind came out by Nirvana or Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream. And these were cultural touchstones for entire generations, you know?
Yep.
And now we don't really have that anymore. Youth culture is so fragmented. And
I kind of wondered about that. I think I've even asked, because it seems like it's not to me, but for all I know, that's not the case. And there are 15-year-olds who will be talking about, the 2010s or whatever, and this crazy thing that happened that everybody will remember. But I don't necessarily think that's the case. I don't know. I have a daughter, I guess I could ask, but it seems to me like we're in like TikTok culture. You know, a good example I think would be like YouTube, or even before YouTube, you had what was that site? Was it E-Bombs World? Something, I don't know, but it was a place where you'd find videos. Man, you'd see a video and it was just unbelievable. Like everybody knew about it. Remember Why You Kick My Dog? Why you kicking my dog? You kicking my dog. It was a prank call. Dude, everybody, I was in middle school. Everybody in my middle school knew that video. Everybody. There's no videos like that today because there's 60 billion. If I watch something on YouTube and I talk to my buddy about it, he hasn't seen it. There's whole genres. Like you go walk into an area and you'll find like 50 creators that make like these scammer things. You can go down the rabbit hole of watching like these people who like scammers and like they change their voice and they like hack their computers and stuff. It's great. You talk to somebody about it, they've never heard of that. Bro, it's crazy how much content there is. So it's hard for there to be like a thing. Like when a movie came out, like Mrs. Doubtfire, the whole world knew about Mrs. Doubtfire. Everybody went to the movie theater to watch Mrs. Doubtfire because it felt like it was in the movie theater for a year. Dude, it didn't hit VHS. Like that thing didn't get to Blockbuster, it felt like, for 5 years. Like the time it took to go from the movie theaters to being actually able to rent it in the movie theaters or buy it, and then how many years before it showed up like on television. That was like, this movie's like 10 years old before you'd actually find it on television. And it wasn't like, Netflix today. It was, you're looking in the TV guide and it's like, bro, Mrs. Doubtfire's on Thursday at 6. We got to remember that. And there's no way to like, what do? You put it on your calendar? You don't have a cell phone to plug it into. So yeah, I completely get what you're saying. There were these seminal events that were worldwide that everybody knew. When Jim Carrey came out with one of his movies, everybody knew about it. Everybody saw it, and then everybody could get together to talk about it. I'm sure there are popular movies that like teenagers talk about, or music or whatever, but it can't be the same. There's just too much today for there to be like a thing that everybody latches onto, at least for a long time. There might be a popular trend. It lasts 5 seconds, like these TikTok dances. Bro, there's 1 today, or 5 today. There's going to be 6 more tomorrow. Nobody's going to frickin' remember in 15 years.
Beyond that, I mean, all media is really fragmented as well and siloed. And so these touchstones, in my mind, don't exist. One of the few exceptions to that is sports, I believe. It's one of the last cultural touchstones that we share.
Yeah.
And so I think when you couple that with the fact that advertising revenue, even on, some streaming services and whatever, anything you can fast forward through commercials, I mean, it's gone down. So, I mean, live sports is still absolutely king, and it's saving the bacon for a lot of channels and the death rattle of the cable industry and all that. I mean, live sports is pretty much saving that, And so it's no wonder to me why Netflix would want to absolutely get on board with that, because it's the kind of the last opportunity to get people to tune in live. I mean, there's not a lot of reason for me to tune in live otherwise for some kind of show. And so I just think it's interesting. The Green Bay Packers probably one of the last cultural touchstones in my life I share with other people.
Yeah.
And one of the few things that's going to get me to tune in live. So it's an interesting discussion, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you got to find something that can't really scale, Like, when there were like 6 videos, not literally, but I mean, it's not like you're sitting on there and just watching YouTube or whatever. It's just somebody would introduce you to a video and it was the most brilliant thing, and then everybody knew about it. And it was once every, I don't know, couple months, somebody came up with a video that was amazing, and then you'd burn it to a CD or something and share it with your friends. Yeah, it was. But again, the reason you don't have these things anymore is because it's just so full of everything. There's so many artists. There's so many creators. I mean, even with music, you don't just have like the radio anymore, or like these 50 popular bands, and when they come out with a new CD, it's amazing. Dude, you got 50 new people every single day breaking out on YouTube. I can't keep up with all these people, especially with the nonsensical names that they come up with. Lil Pop Shovel, Skibby Divvy Wivvy, Sexy Red. Like, it's just a freaking whatever, dude. I don't know. Why should I bother remembering them? They last 5 seconds. And that's always kind of been a thing, but usually you'd have like 5 solid years, maybe 10. Now you get like a year. Then you're kind of still there, but you just get lumped in with a pile of 60,000 other creators while the new people pop out. But yeah, with the NFL, it doesn't scale, So you do wonder if maybe as a percentage, is NFL viewership going down? I know the viewership's going up, but I'm saying as a percentage because there's so much other things to do. Whereas in, 1995, when the Packer game's on, you don't have to watch it. But what are you going to do? You're not going to whip out your tablet and play a game. You're not going to go on mom's cell phone and play a game. You're not going to go in the other room and watch Netflix. We only got one TV in the living room. You can go play outside if you want. That's about it. But you were more likely to probably want to sit there and be a part of it. There's just not as much to do. I was thinking about that the other day too when it comes to like, man, how freaking picky my kids are with eating. And I feel like I suck as a parent because my parents would never have put up with that. And I feel like I shouldn't have. I didn't. But my son especially, he would literally starve himself. Like, he was so relieved when I said you can go to bed without eating. He was like, thank you so much. He would like shake and cry. Like, it was a serious, serious problem. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, I think you're starting to see more and more problems with eating and stuff and more pickiness because there's just more options. We didn't have so much stuff when I was younger. I mean, we had crap, but it wasn't so plentiful. That's why you're not going to see so many picky kids in like a starving country, because they don't have anything. They can't just be like, nah, I think I'm going to make a breakfast sandwich out of the freezer, or I'm going to grab this or grab that. I mean, there's just crap everywhere. There's so many options. So it makes like each individual thing less special. I grill out and smoke amazing foods every day. Stuff that I never had as a kid. Like I don't remember ever having steak. The only time I remember having steak is when we went to, what the heck was that place called? I don't think it was Texas Roadhouse. It was something like that. I don't know. You threw the peanut shells on the floor. It was amazing. But we'd go there. It was like a special treat, and they had like a ribs and steak thing. It would be like a half rack of ribs and then a filet mignon wrapped in bacon. That was like the only time I ever had steak. It was the most amazing thing in the world. Bro, my kids eat steak. My kids have eaten tomahawk steak. My kids all just ate Wagyu steak at a Brazilian steakhouse. Compliments of Fogo de Show, by the way. Thank you guys so much. They had Wagyu steak and pork belly and brisket. And you know what? It's just like, Bro, I make barbecue chicken thighs and rice, and my kids are like, barbecue's too spicy. I'll just have rice. I'm going to punch you in the back of the head. This is amazing. You don't understand how good this is. But I was picky compared to Like, I didn't eat vegetables. I was forced to eat vegetables. I almost puked. But, you know, I'm just saying, it seems like with more variety makes things less special individually. You know, I go back and look at some of the stuff that we enjoyed, some of the videos that I just died. I just died watching some of the stuff. And I go back and watch it, I'm like, that's not even funny. Like, why you kick my dog is not that funny. There was a thing about, there was a reporter interviewing like terrorists or something. There was, you know, Taliban or something. And it was supposed to be the serious thing. And the guy starts speaking like, we will do this. And it put the subtitles up. And he's like, why are there subtitles? And he threw like a fit about it. He's like, I studied at the bloody industry at Cairo. I thought that was the funniest thing. I watched that video 500 times. I went back and watched it. I'm like, it's not that funny. Like, it's kind of cheesy and stupid. And like, I don't care. Dude, in the 90s, remember the dancing baby? Our whole family gathered around the computer to watch it. It was the most, like, oh my, it's a dancing baby in a diaper. Greatest thing ever. You get more variety, things become less special. That's all. There's a lesson in there somewhere, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's why we're all so unhappy, because we just have so much crap, and all this stuff is not, you know, valuable. It doesn't have valuable because it's so plentiful. We need to just go be poor somewhere, and then we'll be happy. I don't know. I think I got the lesson wrong, but there's something in there somewhere. We'll find it. But you're right. At the end of the day, it makes the Packers special, and even more so because it's like this, you know, whereas surprisingly, when we had less, each thing we had was special. And so there was a lot of things that were special. Now we're all kind of huddled around this little flame, you know, as far as like, if the Packers won the Super Bowl this year, we won't remember the music that was played. We won't remember a freaking thing that happened because we have so much plentifulness. And I understand, you know, to varying degrees, some people are struggling financially, but still, even still, when we were beyond poor, we had so much crap. There's so much cheap crap out there. Still a lot of variety. Just not, you know, we just didn't buy meat because we couldn't afford it. Still probably shouldn't be buying meat because it's so frickin' expensive, but I do because I'm hooked on the grilling and smoking stuff. It's an addiction now. But if the Packers win the Super Bowl, we're all going to remember. And even still, I mean, I still remember the moments. I remember the Hail Mary. I still can picture like the video my wife had took of me when I like flipped over the chair and I was on the floor just like rolling around like I can't believe that. Just, I mean, it's these special moments that we will remember. That is a very, very cool observation. I'll tell you what, we're going to end on that. I was going to play Kyle's next call, but it's a great way to end the show. I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a great day. I will talk to you later. Oh, I'm not going to forget the song this time. Bang, bang, boom. Have a good one. Bye-bye.